Well, our next guest believes that no American soldier should be sent to war without an official declaration of Congress, as is required by the Constitution. Yet we have not done that in decades. Soldiers have died in foreign conflicts that we have not declared formal wars. Why is that? Well, this week, a bipartisan attempt to enforce that principle failed. Lawmakers tried to require congressional approval before any military action against Iran, but the resolution never even made it to a vote. Dan Mcknight has been fighting this battle for years at the federal level and in state legislatures across the country. He's a veteran, a constitutionalist, and founder of Bring Our Troops Home. He says enough is enough, and he joins us to discuss this.
If you've been seriously injured, your case could be worth millions, and you should know exactly what your rights are. That's why I want to tell you about Morgan & Morgan. They're America's largest injury law firm with over 1,000 attorneys working in all 50 states. And unlike a lot of firms that settle quickly, Morgan & Morgan doesn't take lowball offers from insurance companies. Just in the past few months, they won $12 million in Florida when the insurance company offered only $350,000. And in New York, they secured $6.8 million on a case where the offer was just $275,000. And the best part? It's absolutely free unless you win. Insurance companies try to pay out as little as possible. Morgan & Morgan fights to get you more if you become their client. It only takes a few minutes to see if you have a case, and you can do it right from your phone. It's that easy. You can visit forthepeople.com/redacted, or you can click the link in the description to get started.
Dan is here with us. Yes, you are here. Thank you so much for joining us. And you've been a vocal spokesperson for soldier safety. One thing I learned when we started talking to you years ago is that veterans are the largest anti-war constituency of the American populace. And so what do you think will happen if American soldiers are sent to war? And tell us how you feel about that.
Well, the way I feel is pretty clear that the Constitution gives the authority to declare war to one body in Congress, and that's Congress. American soldiers are at war in Iran, whether anyone's going to admit it or not, and thousands of National Guard troops from across our country are being transitioned and positioned in the Middle East right now for this war. And it's going to be up to us in the states to fix this. We can't fix it in Washington, D.C. The only way we can do it is in the states, and then we have to take away half of the military-industrial complex's war machine. We have to take away the National Guard from being able to deploy to a war that hasn't been declared yet, and the only way we can do that is in the state legislatures.
So thousands of American National Guard troops we already have 50,000 American forces already stationed in the region. Iran has been very vocal about they would hit American soldiers. Biden knew that. Biden said openly that it's only a matter of time before American soldiers are hit in this region. So our question to President Biden at the time was, then why the hell are they there? Get them the hell out of there. If we're going to war in Iran, get congressional approval on all of this. Lindsey Graham doesn't seem to think that that's necessary. Senator Lindsey Graham doesn't think that's necessary, but you have other members of Congress, Thomas Massie and others, who've put forth a resolution saying we need congressional approval. I mean, why do we have to keep bringing this up?
You know, it's a very basic question, and Tom Massie is doing great work. He is holding the line. He is a true constitutionalist, and you look at other people in the media who are considered constitutional conservatives like Mark Levin, who called Thomas Massie Little Tommy and called him a traitor to America for proposing that Congress should be the authority to declare war. He even called him out and called him an unconstitutional idiot, saying that because Thomas Massie was relying on the War Powers Clause of 1973, that it demonstrated how ignorant Tom was of the Constitution, because the War Powers Act is not part of the Constitution. Well, you know what, Mr. Levin? You know what else isn't part of the Constitution? Presidential war powers. It's also not in the Constitution. And so Mark Levin is not an America First patriot. He is a neocon warmonger. And we're not fighting a war for his sake to defend Israel. We are fighting a war in Iran to perform another regime change. And when was the last time America was involved in a regime change that ended well?
Yeah, Mark Levin is an Israel First little man. He's a little man and doesn't understand how important this would be for the American populace and Americans being killed in a war zone. So many people in our chat room right now are saying, beware of false flags. And I was speaking earlier today to a friend in Israel, and I said, the thing is that false flags in the United States, they work tremendously. They work tremendously. Gulf of Tonkin, Remember the Maine, the USS Liberty. and then it rallies Americans to put yellow ribbons around their trees. Are you fearful that our American soldiers are being used right now as cannon fodder for a false flag attack?
Sure, and it's been happening for a long time. We have created this idolatry in America, and some of it is deserved. We put American soldiers on a pedestal, but not because we honor their sacrifice or what they're willing to pay, the value of their own life to defend our nation. But we do it because it creates this almost separation, almost a hero-like status, almost a cult following for anything that the troops do under the discretion and the direction of somebody who's not following the Constitution. So we wrap yellow ribbons around trees, we fly flags, we give veterans discounts at Applebee's on Veterans Day, we honor them at halftimes of shows, and it's a way to demonstrate that we support the troops unequivocally, no matter what, which we should when they are being used for constitutional purposes. If they are being sent around the world, it's not their fault. It's the leaders' fault. It is the elected officials in our country's fault for abdicating their responsibility and giving it away to a single man and allowing the warmongers in the media to drag America into another war.
I don't understand how this is partisan, because Democrats in 2020, when they were working so hard to oppose Trump, passed in the Senate a resolution that would require the president to get congressional approval for a war with Iran. Fast forward 5 years later, they no longer support that, even though they still hate Trump. But I don't understand. Why? Why not now? What is the justification for saying, oh no, if we just go to a war, it's okay. We don't need this.
Well, I think it's because the largest lobby in Washington, D.C. is AIPAC, and they are trying to drag us into war. They are trying to drag us into war to their own defense. And first we just dabble our toe in and we negotiate and we allow them to strike Iran. And then it comes out that we actually had something to do with the planning. And then it comes out that we are now actually shooting down missiles in defense of Iran. What's going to happen when we coincidentally maybe fire one of our own missiles into Iran? Does that mean we have now pushed ourselves into a war that hasn't been declared? It does, actually. We are participating. We are an instrumentality of war right now in our current war footing. And there is no Republican Party. There is no Democratic Party. There is only a war party in Washington, D.C. And I can count on two hands the number of people in Washington, D.C. serving in Congress, in the House, or in the Senate who are not part of that war machine. It is a small number, and that's why we've taken our fight out of D.C. D.C. is irrelevant when it comes to stopping America from this adventure building and these undeclared wars. It has to be fought in the states. It has to be fought where average citizens who oppose these wars, who are not in favor of them, have a lever of power. We have more leverage in the state legislatures than we ever will or ever did have in Washington, D.C.
Well, that explains why you take this to the state by state is where you're trying to get this passed, because D.C. is a lost cause. So I just, before you ask your question, I want to let people know that they can go to bringourtroopshome.us or follow Troops Home US on X. Go ahead, Clayton.
Dan, I was going to ask you, when was the last time we declared war? When was the last time Congress declared war, voted, and gave the president the authority to launch an attack?
1942 against Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria. 1942. So over 80 years ago was the last time. And since that time, let's just quickly name some: Korea, Vietnam, Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm, Iraq 1, 2, or 3, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, the Horn of Africa. We can go on. There's probably 70 wars that we can name that we have never declared. And Congress has literally abdicated their responsibility. They've given away the authority that we gave to them as the people. Our founding fathers were very clear on this. They did not want to have a king having the authority to take our nation from a condition of peace to a condition of war unilaterally. That's why they put it in the hands of Congress, because they are the closest to the people. And if America is going to shed blood, bury our treasure, or our lives in another country, we should do it with the informed consent of we, the people. Congress is afraid to do that because the ramifications of going back to their home districts in Boise, Idaho, or Bismarck, North Dakota, means that they would have to tell constituents why they took their sons and daughters away from their communities and put them in a war somewhere halfway around the world, fighting for a cause that has nothing to do with American interests. I
have a question. I read a book about insurance, and it said that veterans get special benefits if they have served in an active war or a declared war. There are legal differences such as VA benefits, medals, honors, public recognition, legal protections, and things like that. So everyone who has served in an undeclared war since doesn't have it quite so easy as a veteran, and that's wrong. Can you explain that better than I just did?
You know, that's an interesting concept because I think that we've blurred the lines. When, I was in Afghanistan 2005 to 2007, and we came home with a chest full of ribbons and awards and medals from war, even for people that never left the fob, people that never left the office, people that never put on a helmet, never picked up a rifle, never engaged the enemy, came home with a chest full of war ribbons. So I think we've blurred those lines, and I don't know that there is actual distinction anymore in our society between combat that's been declared, combat that has not been declared, or no combat at all. Like I said, this propaganda that we use to prop the troops up as a justification for war has gotten out of control. And I just don't know that there is an actual distinction anymore.
So it's like participation trophies now within our armed forces for these wars. Unbelievable.
But if you looked on Lindsey Graham's DD 214, that's your official record when you leave the military. He probably has a war medal. We all know that Lindsey Graham never went to war. I believe he was an attorney in the Air Force. I think. I'm not even sure on that. But even if he was in the military, and he claims he was, can you imagine that man picking up a rifle and engaging an enemy? The only thing he can engage the enemy with is the words that are coming out of his mouth or the support that he offers with American dollars.
Yeah.
True enough. Truer words are never spoken. Dan Mcknight, thank you so much for your honesty, integrity, and pushing for us to have checks and balances in Washington, D.C. No more wars. Keep our troops out of there and make us vote on it. Put it before the American people. We were promised transparency. Put it before the American people. If it's an existential crisis to the United States of America, Americans will vote on it.
I mean, think of the way we're sold this right now is like a GOP poll that says Americans support this. You do support it, which then I guess makes us think, well, that's good enough for me. Then that's not what the Constitution, that's not the way it's supposed to be. So thank you so much for your hard work. It's always a pleasure to speak to you.
It's good seeing you both.